So Itachi has something only a select few other characters can claim. He's both well studied and naturally talented, and has inborn powers from his clan that most people could only dream of. And many do, considering that dealing with the Sharingan makes up about 25% of the plot. So let's start there. As an Uchiha, Itachi has access to the Sharingan. I've done videos on the Sharingan before, and one of these days I'll probably give it its own video series once again to really get into what it can do. But right now, we're focusing on Itachi, so for the interest of saving time, I will be focusing primarily on the abilities we see Itachi use. First and foremost, let's talk about the nifty upgrade to the standard Sharingan, the Mangekyo. The Mangekyo Sharingan has only activated for a select few Uchiha over the generations, usually after a traumatic event, nearly always after the death of a loved one. In Itachi's case, it was Shisui's cliff diving accident. Mangekyo gave Itachi access to 3 abilities in particular. First is Tsukiyomi, an especially powerful genjutsu that enables the user to control the target's perception and senses. And not just their 5 senses, but also their sense of time. This can be considered Itachi's preferred and signature technique, and he's seen using it multiple times. He can make them see whatever he wants, and he can make it last as long as he wants, making the target experience hours or even days, when in reality only seconds have passed by. Second is Amaterasu. Using only his eyes, Itachi can pick a target and it will suddenly burst into black flames, and these flames can only be extinguished by either the user or the target itself being completely burnt up. Last, and in my opinion least, is Susanoo. While based on a real-world mythological concept called a chakra avatar, it feels more like a giant chakra mech suit. It clashes with the tone of the series and feels made up on the spot for this fight in particular. More on that later. It goes through stages which are not terribly well defined, and it functions as both offense and armor for the user. Since Itachi is a very special Uchiha, his Susanoo gets some special mods. One is known as the Yata Mirror, and sounds like something an RPG boss would use. It counters any attack by changing its own chakra nature to the counter nature of the incoming attack in question, thus neutralizing it. The other mod is the Sword of Totsuka, which can seal anything it cuts into its gourd-like hilt. In addition to the Mangekyo Sharingan abilities and the other regular Sharingan abilities Itachi is seen using, he also has access to both Izanagi and Izanami. Now I'm going to real talk with you guys for a minute about Izanami and Izanagi. They, to me, are the most convoluted jutsu in all of Naruto, and I personally find it very difficult to explain without getting frustrated a little bit by their existence. Izanagi really does feel similar to Susanoo in my mind in that it feels like it was created to solve a plot problem that Kishimoto was having in that moment. Izanami, on the other hand, feels like it was created to solve the plot problem that Izanagi created when it was introduced. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible with this, but Izanagi is the first one that you need to understand in order to understand Izanami. And it is important to say that Itachi does not use Izanagi. He only is ever seen using Izanami. The way Izanagi works is that it's essentially described as a self-casted genjutsu, an illusion you put on yourself. I find that description wholly inadequate. You'll see why. The way it's supposed to work is that when you are in a fight and you use Izanagi, the thing that had just happened hadn't actually had happened, you see. In fact, the thing that didn't had happened is what has happened now that I have decided what had happened. Okay, I'm being obtuse on purpose. The point is, when you're in a fight and you're in a situation where you can take one of 2 courses, really you could do it in more courses, but for simplicity's sake, we'll say there's 2 options. You can either dodge left or you can dodge right. And if you dodge left, you'll miss the attack. You'll be fine. But if you dodge right, you will be killed by the attack that's incoming. What Izanagi allows you to do is to say, if you did dodge right and got hit by that attack, hold on a second. No, you didn't, because that was just an illusion. I was just illusioning myself to think that that's the exact reality that happened. And no, that didn't happen. The other option where I dodged left and am fine is what was reality. This is why I don't think calling it an illusion makes any sense, because That's not what's happening. You are changing reality for everyone, not just yourself. It's a mulligan, a do-over. It's the kid at the playground when you said, I hit you with my special lightning attack. And they said, nuh-uh, no you didn't, because I have the special power. That means that even though you thought you hit me, I didn't actually get hit by it. The cost of using Izanagi is that you lose that eye's ability to function, both as a Sharingan and just as an eye. But you see, the Uchiha are a large clan, or at least they used to be, to the point where an Uchiha who had gotten used to the power that Izanagi allowed them to have over reality itself may steal their clansman's eye so they could continue to use it. Now, nobody tell the Uchiha that there is a finite amount of Uchiha eyes, because they don't seem to operate under that assumption. So, in the backstory of the clan, there is this idea that these folks that got over-reliant on Izanagi needed some counter, and Izanami was created to do just that. Now, Izanami, I do think, is fair to call a genjutsu. It feels much more real to be that's an illusion. The way Izanami works is that you take a point in time, and you call that time point A. And then you take a point in time later on in that fight, and you call that point B. Usually, point B happens right before the user will be utilizing Izanagi. Once casted, that person utilizing Izanagi, who has been recorded as point A and point B in time, is stuck in a time loop in their own mind. They will relive that moment over and over and over again in Izanami until they decide to stop using Izanagi. If they can accept reality for what it is and not continually use this power to alter it in such a way, they will have become sufficiently reformed from the caster of Izanami's perspective to break free of the jutsu. The cost for using Izanami, the same cost as using Izanagi, which in my opinion is a little BS. I get that it's a very powerful ability, and it is used to great effect in the series, but it's not as world-breaking as Izanagi, so I kind of find it frustrating in that regard too, that the cost is the same. Getting back on topic to Itachi's abilities and rounding it out, he is only seen using Izanami. We'll talk about that later. But in addition to all of the Sharingan abilities, he's also a very skilled Genjutsu user. He's said to be able to cast a Genjutsu with just a single finger. He's also skilled at Taijutsu and can use a sword from his days in Anbu. He's well practiced in the fire style that is signature to the Uchiha clan, knowing things like Great Fireball Jutsu as well as others. And he's also well versed in Shuriken Jutsu, using things like wires to change the trajectory of Shuriken when they're in the air, or things like hiding a Shuriken in the shadow of another. We don't see him leveraging it that much, but we do know he can use it because he's able to counter it when other people use it against him. And with that, it's finally time to transition into what Itachi did in the series of Naruto.